For over 6 decades, Ernest Borgnine kept silent about the co-star who made his life a nightmare on set. Now, shocking details about one of Hollywood's most volatile feuds have finally surfaced. Violent outbursts, sabotaged scenes, and a coffee-throwing incident that left someone with second-degree burns. But perhaps the most explosive revelation wasn't just professional. It was deeply personal. Today, we finally uncover the truth about the dangerous feud that simmered behind the scenes. Born in 1917 in Hamden, Connecticut, as Ernest Borgnine, Ernest's journey to Hollywood was anything but conventional. The son of Italian immigrants, his early years were shaped by turmoil and change. At just 2 years old, his parents separated. His mother took him to Italy, where he spent 5 formative years, absorbing the language and culture of a new world in the small town of Carpi near Modena. By the time he returned to the United States in 1923, his life had been turned upside down once again. His parents reconciled, and the family settled in New Haven, Connecticut, but they had to reinvent themselves in America. Borgnine's father changed his name from Camillo to Charles, and the family adopted the anglicized surname Borgnine to fit in more seamlessly with their new life. For young Ernest, this shift was just the beginning of many transformations that would shape his destiny. As a teenager, Borgnine had no interest in acting. He wasn't the type to sneak into theaters or daydream about Hollywood fame. Instead, he was focused on sports, relishing the physicality and competition. His high school yearbook contains no references to drama or theater. There was no indication that he would ever become an actor. But fate had other plans. In 1935, fresh out of high school, he enlisted in the U.S. Navy, beginning a 6-year stint on the USS Lamberton. By 1941, he received an honorable discharge, but just 2 months later, the attack on Pearl Harbor called him back into service. Borgnine re-enlisted in January 1942, this time serving aboard the USSSIL, a patrol yacht tasked with defending the Atlantic coast. The war shaped him, hardened him. It instilled in him a deep sense of discipline and camaraderie, experiences that would later inform his portrayal of military roles on screen. By the time he was discharged in 1945, Borgnine had risen to the rank of gunner's mate first class and earned multiple military honors. Though he had considered making the Navy his career, his mother's simple suggestion changed his trajectory. She told him he had a forceful personality and should try acting. Initially, acting seemed like an odd choice. Borgnine had no experience, no industry connections, and no clear path forward. But undeterred, he enrolled in the Randall School of Drama in Hartford before heading to Virginia to join the Barter Theater. It was no glamorous start. Founded during the Great Depression, the Barter Theater allowed people to trade food for tickets. Actors were often paid in vegetables. Borgnine didn't care. He took whatever roles he could find, performing night after night, often behind the scenes as well, painting sets, fixing costumes, and scrubbing toilets. One night, during a performance, he had to chase a live chicken across the stage, a chaotic moment when the bird escaped into the audience, flapping wildly as people screamed and laughed. Though it was pandemonium, it taught him something vital: how to improvise, engage with the audience, and turn a disaster into entertainment. At the Barter Theater, Borgnine worked alongside future stars like Gregory Peck and Patricia Neal. He observed, learned, and honed his craft. Then came his big break. Ernest Borgnine's journey through Hollywood was nothing short of extraordinary. After landing a role in Tennessee Williams's The Glass Menagerie, he thought he was terrible, but the audience disagreed. The performance was a hit, and suddenly, people started paying attention. By 1949, Borgnine was on Broadway, marking his debut in Harvey, a long-running play starring the iconic James Stewart. But getting there hadn't been easy. Casting directors didn't quite know where to place him. His face was too tough for comedy, too quirky for drama, and no one seemed to have a clear vision for him. Harvey proved them wrong. Borgnine, playing a male nurse, found his place on stage, closely watching Stewart's every move. He even kept a notebook, jotting down notes on how Stewart delivered his lines, learning the craft in real time. The play ran for an astounding 1,775 performances, offering Borgnine the stability he needed. Television came calling in 1951, and Borgnine made his TV debut in Captain Video and His Video Rangers, a low-budget sci-fi series where he played a villain. It wasn't a prestigious role, but it got him noticed. Columbia Pictures soon saw something in him, offering a small part in The Whistle at Eaton Falls. It wasn't much, but it was a foot in the door. His breakout film role came with From Here to Eternity in 1953. Having spent 10 years in the U.S. Navy, Borgnine was naturally cast for military roles, but nothing could prepare him for the terrifying character of Sergeant Fatso Judson. Judson was cruel, sadistic, and the complete opposite of Borgnine's warm, kind nature. One of the film's most disturbing scenes showed Judson beating Frank Sinatra's character, Angelo Maggio, to death with a nightstick. It was brutal and hard to watch. Sinatra himself doubted Borgnine's ability to portray such a menacing role, but once filming began, Borgnine disappeared into the character completely. He isolated himself for days to get into the right mindset, and when the cameras rolled, he was someone else entirely. His performance was so convincing that Sinatra refused to speak to him off-camera for weeks, and even the crew kept their distance. The intensity of the role didn't just affect his co-stars, it haunted Borgnine for months. He later admitted that he had nightmares about the scene. The reaction from audiences was even more intense. Some were so disturbed by his performance that they sent him death threats, unable to separate the actor from the character. The role took a deep emotional toll on Borgnine, but it also elevated him to stardom. 2 years later, he shocked Hollywood once again, this time not by playing a villain, but by taking on the role of Marty, a humble butcher searching for love. The film was the complete opposite of Fatso Judson. Marty was a gamble, a film made on a tiny budget of $343,000, unheard of for a movie destined to win Best Picture. But Marty connected with audiences in a way no one expected. At the 1955 Academy Awards, Borgnine took home the Oscar for Best Actor at 38 years old, making him one of the oldest actors to win for a debut leading role. What made this even more remarkable was that he beat out Hollywood legends like James Dean and Spencer Tracy. Borgnine's acceptance speech was simple. He thanked his mother for encouraging him to pursue acting. Yet the truth was, he almost didn't get the role in the first place. Director Delbert Mann had originally wanted Rod Steiger, who had played Marty in a television version. Borgnine wasn't even considered until a chance encounter at a Hollywood party, where he charmed the producers so much that they decided to give him a screen test. His performance was so natural that Mann later said, "Ernest Borgnine didn't act Marty, he was Marty." That role didn't just change his career, it transformed Hollywood, proving that films didn't need big stars or massive budgets to captivate audiences. Borgnine, who had never allowed himself to be typecast, continued to pursue roles that would challenge him in unexpected ways. By 1967, at the age of 50, he was ready to embrace new ventures, expanding his range even further. Ernest Borgnine's career continued to surprise audiences as he pushed boundaries in both film and television, never allowing himself to be typecast. He had no fear in taking on challenging and physically demanding roles that tested his limits. In 1967, he played General Warren in The Dirty Dozen, a film that became a cultural phenomenon. Borgnine insisted on doing all his own stunts, including a perilous leap from a moving train. His younger co-stars, including Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson, were impressed by his stamina and dedication. Just 2 years later, Borgnine shocked audiences again with The Wild Bunch, one of the most violent westerns ever made. His character, Dutch Angstrom, was ruthless, yet strangely likable. One scene, in particular, stood out above the rest. Borgnine gunned down dozens of men while laughing maniacally. That haunting moment would stay with him for years, reflecting the deep emotional impact that some of his roles had on him. However, his television career was just as surprising and rewarding, full of twists that no one could have predicted. Borgnine's big break in television came with McHale's Navy, where he played the laid-back Lieutenant Commander Quentin McHale. The show ran for 4 seasons, cementing his status as a household name. McHale's relaxed persona was a far cry from the intense characters he had played in films, but it was something that came naturally to Borgnine. His real-life experience serving in the Navy during World War II aboard the USS Sill gave him the confidence to portray McHale with authenticity, even when the show veered into comedic absurdity. But McHale's Navy wasn't all fun and games for Borgnine. During the 2nd season, he suffered a serious on-set accident when a pyrotechnic device exploded prematurely, burning his face and hands. The show had to stop filming for 3 weeks as he recovered. Despite the trauma, Borgnine's dedication to his craft was unshaken. When he returned, he brought even more intensity to the role, earning an Emmy nomination for his performance. The impact of McHale's Navy extended beyond television. In 1965, a classified memo revealed that the U.S. Navy had actually consulted with the show's writers for inspiration. The military believed McHale's creative problem-solving techniques could be valuable in real-life operations, which led to the creation of Operation McHale, a series of naval training exercises inspired by the show. It's almost unbelievable to think that a sitcom had such an influence on military strategy, but it was a testament to the lasting power of Borgnine's role. As the years went on, Borgnine continued to evolve in his television roles. In 1984, at the age of 67, he took on the role of Dominic Santini in Airwolf, a high-stakes action series about a futuristic helicopter. Despite his age, Borgnine refused to slow down, performing many of his own stunts. This decision nearly cost him his life in 1985 when a helicopter malfunctioned and crashed just feet from where he stood. His quick reflexes saved him, allowing him to walk away with only minor injuries. But it was his role in SpongeBob SquarePants that introduced him to a whole new generation of fans. It all started when his grandson, a massive SpongeBob fan, kept insisting that Borgnine should be on the show. At a charity event in 1998, Borgnine mentioned this to a Nickelodeon executive, who immediately asked him to read a few lines. With nothing but a napkin for a script, Borgnine delivered the perfect performance, landing him the role of Mermaid Man. Over the course of 13 years, Borgnine appeared in 17 episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants, becoming a fan favorite. The show's creators even paid homage to Borgnine's real-life Navy service, incorporating subtle nods to his background into his character's dialogue. Borgnine's career, spanning over 6 decades, was a journey filled with surprises, triumphs, and unforgettable roles. From military dramas to animated heroes, he left an indelible mark on Hollywood and the television industry, forever beloved by audiences across generations. Ernest Borgnine's legacy wasn't just forged through his unforgettable performances, but also through the dramatic twists and turns of his personal life. Known for his impeccable voice acting and powerful on-screen presence, Borgnine's career never slowed down, not even in his later years. At the age of 95, just weeks before his death in 2012, he was still actively working as a voice actor, making him one of the oldest to do so at the time. His dedication to his craft was unparalleled, a true testament to his indomitable spirit. Despite initially dismissing television as a fad, Borgnine's perspective shifted profoundly after a touching encounter with a terminally ill child in 1961. This moment, where the child revealed that watching Borgnine's films had brought them joy, made Borgnine realize that television had the power to reach people in ways movies simply couldn't. His attitude toward television shifted dramatically after that revelation, and by the time McHale's Navy came around, he seized the opportunity, marking the beginning of a long and fruitful television career. Borgnine later admitted he had been wrong to view TV as beneath him, noting, "It's not about the size of the screen, it's about the size of the audience's heart." This reflection on his earlier beliefs marked the beginning of a new chapter in his career, where he found immense success not only in movies but also on television. Over the course of his 95 years, Borgnine's love life was just as dramatic as the characters he portrayed. He married 5 times, each relationship more tumultuous than the last. Yet one, in particular, stood out as a testament to his enduring search for love. His first marriage to Roa Kim in 1949 was full of hope, and they had a daughter together. But as Borgnine's career skyrocketed with the success of Marty, their marriage fell apart under the pressure of his rising fame. Their divorce in 1958 was a painful one, but it wasn't the only heartbreak in Borgnine's personal life. In 1959, he married Mexican actress Katie Garrido, and though their union was passionate, it was also filled with heated arguments and public tension. By 1963, their marriage ended, marking yet another lesson in the complexities of love and Hollywood. Borgnine's shortest and perhaps most infamous marriage was to Broadway legend Ethel Merman. They wed in 1964, and their whirlwind romance quickly turned into a disaster. The honeymoon in Japan was less about love and more about mounting tension as fans relentlessly pursued Borgnine. Merman, used to the spotlight, felt ignored, and the stress of the situation led to a fiery argument, culminating in Merman tossing her diamond and pearl ring into a koi pond. Less than 5 weeks after saying, "I do," she filed for divorce. Merman's silence on the matter only added to the drama. In her 1978 autobiography, one chapter was simply titled, "My Marriage to Ernest Borgnine." But when readers turned the page, they found nothing but a blank space. Borgnine later admitted, "That blank page said more to me than anything she could have written." After the emotional fallout of his brief marriage to Merman, Borgnine found a more enduring relationship with Donna Rancourt in 1965. They had 3 children together, but like the others, this marriage didn't last, ending in divorce by 1972. Yet, in 1973, Borgnine met Tove Trees, a Norwegian businesswoman, at a Las Vegas party. Despite knowing his reputation, Tove fell for Borgnine's charm, and their relationship flourished. They married in 1973, and for the first time, Borgnine found stability. Tove wasn't just his wife, but his business partner, and Borgnine was incredibly supportive of her success. His lighthearted comment about being the oldest living Avon lady in the world captured the deep affection he felt for her. Their love endured for nearly 4 decades, the longest of any of his marriages. In his final years, Borgnine often credited Tove as the reason he continued to thrive, saying in his last interview, "I'm 95 years old, and I'm still going strong. I think it's because of the love I have for Tove." Borgnine's personal life was, of course, filled with moments of high drama off-screen as well. His role in the Poseidon Adventure, 1972, a disaster film, pitted him alongside Shelley Winters, a co-star known for her own strong personality. The behind-the-scenes tension between them was palpable, especially given the intensity of their roles. Borgnine played a tough detective, while Winters portrayed his determined wife. Though their performances were gripping, the off-screen relationship was fraught with conflict, as Winters' demanding nature clashed with Borgnine's approach to work. Despite the challenges, their shared screen time became one of the film's standout moments, showcasing Borgnine's ability to hold his own against some of Hollywood's strongest personalities. Ernest Borgnine's life was one of remarkable contrasts, his on-screen tough guy persona paired with a deeply emotional and sometimes turbulent personal journey. Yet through it all, he remained resilient, continuously reinventing himself as an actor, a partner, and a man who defied the odds in both his career and his personal life. Ernest Borgnine's career was shaped not only by his incredible talent, but also by the intense and often volatile relationships he had with some of Hollywood's most formidable co-stars. His time working with Shelley Winters on The Poseidon Adventure, 1972, was one of the most challenging of his career, but also one of the most rewarding. Winters, known for her fierce dedication to her craft, was a force of nature on set. She believed in fully understanding her characters and was relentless in pushing for changes to the script. On one occasion, Winters arrived on set with a 20-page document outlining her character's backstory, insisting on rewriting lines to align with her vision. The screenwriter resisted, but Borgnine, ever the professional, found himself caught in the middle of this creative tug-of-war. Working with Winters, Borgnine later admitted, was exhausting. She demanded control over every detail, and that relentless drive created friction on set. One of the most difficult moments came during a grueling underwater stunt. Despite concerns for her safety, Winters insisted on doing her own stunts, wanting to prove that she could still swim like a champion at 51. What should have been a quick shoot turned into a brutal 14-hour day, with the scene being filmed 65 times before the director was satisfied. The long hours and tensions wore on everyone, but Borgnine kept his composure. Reflecting on that day years later, he called it one of the hardest in his career, but he also acknowledged that Winters' performance was unforgettable. Her dedication paid off with an Academy Award nomination, and Borgnine admitted that her instincts were often right, despite the challenges on set. Borgnine's experiences with co-stars like Winters were not always easy, but they contributed to his belief that a challenge on set often resulted in a powerful performance. His time working with Spencer Tracy on Bad Day at Black Rock, 1955, was another example of that. Borgnine, at 37, was still proving himself in Hollywood, while Tracy, 54 and a two-time Academy Award winner, had long been established as one of the greatest actors of his generation. Borgnine was understandably intimidated by Tracy's presence, and that gap in experience loomed large during their scenes together. Tracy's acting style was one of complete confidence. He often improvised, changing his lines and delivering them in a way that blurred the line between what was scripted and what was spontaneous. Borgnine wasn't used to this, and during one tense scene, Tracy threw in an unexpected line. Borgnine froze, and that moment of raw, unscripted acting made it into the final cut of the film. The pressure mounted for Borgnine as filming continued. Director John Sturges was known for long, uninterrupted takes, which was no problem for Tracy but a nightmare for Borgnine, who struggled to deliver his lines consistently. One day, Borgnine messed up his lines 7 times in a row, and with each mistake, Tracy's frustration became more apparent. Borgnine, already nervous, felt smaller and smaller. Their tension was palpable, and that energy bled into their performances. Borgnine played Coy Trimble, a short-tempered thug, while Tracy portrayed John J. Maker, a man who didn't back down. Their scenes together were already full of weight and intensity, but nothing compared to the explosive fight scene in the town's diner. Filmed on August 23rd, this brawl became one of the most iconic moments in the film. Tracy's character, a one-armed war veteran, had to take down Borgnine's character using nothing but skill. In real life, Borgnine was bigger, standing 5 feet 9 inches and weighing around 210 pounds, while Tracy, slightly taller at 5 feet 10 inches, was much lighter at 160 pounds. This physical contrast made the fight all the more intense. By take 7, things had gotten too real. Borgnine accidentally landed a hard punch to Tracy's jaw. The set went silent, but Tracy, ever the professional, paused for a moment before shrugging it off like nothing had happened. Borgnine, already on edge, felt the pressure mounting. He kept messing up his lines, and as the scene progressed, the tension between the two actors reached a boiling point. Tracy, delivering a line with precision and force, stared Borgnine down and said, "You're not only wrong, you're wrong at the top of your voice." That moment, Borgnine later revealed, felt personal. It wasn't just a line spoken to the character, but a message directly to him. The final part of the fight was a brutal judo throw, Tracy flipping Borgnine onto a table using only one arm. No stunt doubles were used, just two exhausted actors giving everything they had to make the scene as real and gritty as possible. The intensity of their performances made the fight one of the most memorable moments in Bad Day at Black Rock and further solidified the bond between the two actors, forged in both the pressure and intensity of their work. The tension on the set of Johnny Guitar, 1954, was palpable, but nothing could have prepared Ernest Borgnine for the explosive feud between Joan Crawford and Mercedes McCambridge. Their hatred was far from subtle. It was open warfare. The trouble began when Crawford learned that McCambridge's husband, Fletcher Markle, had once been romantically involved with her. That revelation sparked a firestorm, and from then on, Crawford made it her mission to make McCambridge's life on set miserable. One day, Borgnine watched in disbelief as Crawford stormed onto the set, grabbed McCambridge's costumes, and tossed them into the highway. The crew scrambled to retrieve the garments before they were lost to the Arizona desert. The atmosphere was thick with animosity, and Borgnine, trying to focus on his work, found it almost impossible. The two actresses refused to be in the same room together, forcing the director, Nicholas Ray, to film their scenes separately and stitch them together later. The situation grew even worse when the two women came to blows. What began as a verbal altercation escalated into physical violence, and Borgnine and co-star Sterling Hayden had to intervene, pulling the actresses apart. It was chaos. Borgnine would later describe this incident as the most unprofessional behavior he had ever witnessed on set. Despite the madness, Crawford never turned on Borgnine. In fact, they got along, but he couldn't ignore her volatile temperament. He witnessed firsthand just how dangerous her mood swings could be. One day, after a bad take, Crawford grabbed a cup of hot coffee and threw it at a young production assistant. The poor assistant was left with second-degree burns. Borgnine never forgot that moment, later recalling in an interview that Joan Crawford was like a ticking time bomb. You never knew what would set her off. Then there was the time Borgnine accidentally walked in on her berating a costume designer. Her voice was sharp, her eyes wild. He didn't say a word, just quietly backed out of the room, careful not to draw her anger in his direction. But even in the midst of all the chaos, Crawford wasn't all fury. On the last day of filming, she surprised the crew with personalized bottles of Pepsi, a gesture of goodwill given that her husband was the CEO of Pepsi Cola. It was her way of showing gratitude, a small act of kindness after the tumultuous production. But even that couldn't erase the tension that had built up over the course of the shoot. Before she left, however, there was one final confrontation. Crawford, loud enough for everyone to hear, threatened to ruin McCambridge's career. It was a chilling warning that left a mark on everyone involved. Looking back on the experience years later, Borgnine spoke of working with Joan Crawford with a mix of awe and disbelief. "Working with Joan was like walking on eggshells while juggling dynamite," he remarked. "She was brilliant, but boy was she scary." It was a harsh reality of the cutthroat world of Hollywood at the time, where egos clashed and tempers flared. Yet somehow, some performances were shaped by that very chaos.